10 to 6 here on LBC 97.3. Now, John has tweeted, has LBC been nominated for the Contrarian Award? Well, I don't know if you can nominate organisations or whether it's just individuals. We will now find out with Ali Mirage. He's the creator of the Contrarian Award. If you were listening to my late lamented Sunday show, you'll know all about this, but if you didn't, you won't. Ali, good to talk to you.
Good afternoon, Ian. Thank you very much for having me back on the show. It's always great to be on.
Well, thank you for coming on. Now, just tell us exactly what the Contrarian Award is. I suppose it does what it says on the tin.
It does. The Contrarian Prize is for people in British public life that go against the grain, stand up for their principles and make a sacrifice. It's for people who demonstrate independence, courage and sacrifice. You know, and people who basically can't be bought off. They can't be silenced. They're the people who stand up for what they believe.
And last year was the first year that you've run this award. Who was nominated?
Well, there were five people who made the shortlist. It was Nigel Farage. It was Heather Brooke, who blew open the expenses scandal. It was Canon Giles Fraser, who took a stand and resigned from St Paul's Cathedral over the Occupy protesters. Peter Tatchell. And the winner was Michael Woodford, who was the former president and CEO of Olympus, the Japanese electronics giant, that basically discovered a huge $1.7 billion fraud 2 weeks after taking up his position as president and CEO. And this is after being 30 years in the company. He discovered this huge fraud. The board of the company closed ranks against him when he wanted to expose it. He basically blew the whistle, lost his job, gave up a seven-figure salary, was effectively put his life in danger with the Japanese mafia, and did the right thing. And he's paid the price, paid the ultimate sacrifice, and he was the inaugural winner.
Well, it sounds as if he deserved to be.
Yeah, I think he did, Ian. I mean, if you read his book, Exposure, I mean, it reads like a John Grisham thriller. I mean, the guy, you know, he was completely loyal to the company and, you know, spent 30 years at Olympus working his way up from effectively the factory floor up, made it right to the top of the company, and then found that it was rotten at the top. And effectively, the entire board closed ranks against him when he tried to reveal what had happened. And he effectively did the right thing and paid the price for doing so.
So we move on to this year. You're talking to me now because the nominations have opened. How do people nominate?
They nominate via visiting the website, which is www.contrarianprize.com. It's a very simple process. I mean, all nominations come directly from members of the public via the website. You just go on there and there's a tab that says nominate here. And you just go on there and there are four criteria, very simple criteria. The person has to be in British public life. So it could be a businessman, a politician, a journalist, a writer, anyone in public life who demonstrates independence of thought, courage and conviction in their actions, has to have made a tangible sacrifice and should have introduced new ideas into the public realm or had an impact on the public debate.
Now, that's interesting. Has to have made a tangible sacrifice. What tangible sacrifice did Nigel Farage make to get nominated?
Well, he left the Conservative Party. He worked hard on establishing...
20 years ago.
But still, yeah, I mean, you know, this is a new prize. So, you know, people will have their views on whether it should be within the last year or 3 years or whatever it may be. But Farage is a figure who stands up for what he believes. He speaks out and he's connected with the British public in a way that many politicians can't, simply because they toe the party line. I mean, Farage is not the kind of guy, if he was in Parliament now, who would outsource his integrity to the Whip's office or its corporate equivalent. And that's the kind of person that the Contrarian Prize seeks to represent. These people can't be bought off or silenced. They stand up for what they believe, they make a sacrifice, and they put their head above the parapet.
So are you allowed to sort of suggest people that can be nominated, or does that go against the rules?
Well, I mean, it's not my position to preempt what the public will say. I mean, Ian, after coming on your show this time last year, we had scores of nominations, you know, absolutely loads and loads from a whole range of different walks of life within public life. And that was great to see. So, I mean, even the shortlist that we came up with was broad and shows that, you know, in a whole range of different spheres, people can take a stand, people can stand up for principle. And when you've got an environment where we've had the expenses scandal, the banking scandal, the phone hacking scandal, the Hillsborough cover-up, the Savile affair, we can't even trust what's in our frozen lasagna now. People want people who stand up for what they believe and, you know, put their head above the parapet. That's what people want to see.
Well, let me give a couple of ideas if you're not able to. Two women. Stella Creasy, the Labour MP for Walthamstow, stood up to the payday lenders. Has had, I think, quite a lot of trouble on the internet about that. I think she could be somebody that could be nominated. And the Tory MP, Dr. Sarah Wollaston, who basically tells the whips what they can do, and she doesn't regard it as her job to be a servant of the whip's office. So, would they both qualify? Do you think?
I think they absolutely would, and I would encourage you to nominate them, or people, your listeners, to nominate them. I mean, another person who is in the mix is the lady from the Care Quality Commission, who stood up and she was on the board and effectively was going to be closed out by the Secretary of State. So people like that, people of that ilk, is what we're looking for. Who take a stand. I mean, that is fine. And those two names that you've suggested, very, very credible candidates.
Right, just tell us again how you can nominate.
You visit www.contrarianprize.com and you nominate via the website, and it would be very, very helpful, Ian, if people could also tweet about the prize using the hashtag #CPrize. The prize itself is a beautiful piece of sculpture that's been designed and donated effectively by a world-famous sculptor called Mauro Perichetti. It's called The Three Politicians, the prize: the one who does not see, the one who does not hear, and the one who does not speak out. And the Contrarian is obviously the opposite of all of these. And it's a beautiful piece of sculpture. It's worth a lot of money. And in fact, that sculpture, a very much larger version of it, was outside the Louvre in Paris on public display in an installation that he did last year. So it's a beautiful thing to win.
We've had another nomination from Alex on Twitter, Margaret Hodge. I totally agree with that. I think she would be a worthy winner too. We'll have you back, Ali, when you've got the nomination shortlist sorted out. Thank you very much indeed for coming on. That's Ali Mirage from the Contrarian Prize. What a great prize to win. Right, let's go back to your calls on banking.